Hey everyone, in today's video we're going to clean this receiver with DeoxIT. Now the receiver we'll be using in today's video is a Pioneer SX1280. This is considered a monster receiver. It is rated at 185 watts per channel into 8 ohms. But we're not really going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about how to clean all of the controls. This came to me broken and I figured out what was wrong with it. But there's some scratchiness in the controls and one of the channels sounds kind of bad. And I can make it sound a little bit better when I play with this little adapter toggle switch here. So I think that if we use some DeoxIT on these switches, it's going to make the receiver work a lot better and sound better also. So I'm going to start deconstructing the faceplate here, and that's going to give us good access to all of the controls behind the faceplate. Like all these push buttons and these knobs, potentiometers, and these switches. So, let's get started. Alright, first thing we're going to do is remember to unplug the receiver. Yeah, don't really want to work on this while there's hot stuff. We're going to begin by removing all of these knobs here at the bottom. So these toggle switches are best removed when they are in the on position or up position. So most of these just come off like so, you just yank them off. I'm going to lay these all in the order in which I removed them over to the side here, so I know exactly where each control goes. So, and yeah, here's a good reason to keep everything in line, because the power switch and the tone control switch have different shafts. I'm not sure you can see that from here, but let me zoom in real quick and remove this knob. Look at that. You see the tone control shaft has a different design than the power switch shaft. So keep everything in order the best you can. Okay, now you saw me skip this knob because this knob is different. If you look closely on the face of the knob here, you'll see a little tiny hole on the side of the knob. And that is where a little set screw is. You remove that with a small Allen key. The tuning knob is the same situation, so we'll need to get these both off. They're both going to be removed with a very small Allen key. So since this was made in Japan, that means it is likely a metric Allen key. Of course, we got to be very careful not to scratch anything. Okay, there was the click. Let's bring it up here so that I can rotate the set screw away from the faceplate here, because we don't want to scratch this, because this receiver is worth a lot of money. And there it is. Knob comes right off. Very nice. Let's do the same thing with the volume knob down here again, taking extreme care not to scratch anything. Okay, I think we're in. I'll start pulling back here. There. Got the nice little click. There's a second one, so that's why it's not coming out. There we are. Success. So now that we have removed the knobs and everything, looks like we need to remove these nuts right here. And there will be 2 Phillips head screws on top. A deep socket works well for this. Careful not to scratch it. It's not too bad if you do, because you know the knob covers this. But it's time for the 2 screws on top. Now we can slide this right off. And we're going to put this in a very, very safe place so that nothing bad happens to it while we're moving around cleaning up all these controls here. Okay, so you're wondering, okay, I just spent all this time taking the controls off of this faceplate so I can get to this. What is going on here? Why did I have to get to here? Well, let me show you. The way you access all of these toggle switches and stuff, and these push buttons also, is these are all soldered to a circuit board. It's right under here, and we're going to flip the receiver on its side. Okay, so now we can see what's going on underneath here. And what's about to happen is we're going to undo these nuts right here, probably this one also, and that's going to allow us to slide this circuit board back and then kind of bring it out of the unit, which is going to fully expose these guys here. Obviously there's 2 circuit boards, so we're going to need to do that for all of these controls here. And then once these have come out, all these push buttons will be exposed and we can get DeoxIT in on those. These are important because it keeps it so when you have the faceplate on you can't like see too far inside, and it looks nice and clean. Next we'll start going with these nuts. Okay, we still have some screws here that need to be removed also. Another screw right here. See? The main thing you gotta do when you're doing this is just, look for things that are obvious like these nuts, and then it looked like this screw is there. And I look inside and I see movement right here, which is not ideal, so that means we gotta take out this one also. Let's move on to this board now and try and get this one removed also. So it looks like we have 2 nuts here, and then we have 6 screws along the toggle switches. We gotta pull these guys out so that these shafts and stuff all move inside the receiver. Okay, so this one came out pretty easy. And there we go. See, look at all the switches right there. We've got wonderful, easy access to them. I think at this point the receiver should be on its back, so I'm gonna work on making that happen, which is no easy task because this thing is insanely heavy. See, this is how you break dial pointers on Marantz receivers, but Pioneer, it's got it right there. So, not in as much trouble. Okay, got both boards free. What I did for this one is there's this bracket right here that holds either the protection or soft start board. What I did for this board is I took this bracket that holds this one vertical board and loosened it from the other end of the receiver. There's 3 screws on the bottom end here, and that gave it the ability to wiggle so that I could have these shafts here clear the edge here. So now we look inside and we see, well, no switches, and that's because they're on the other side of that PCB. So now what needs to happen is the exact same thing, except we're going to go from the front here. We're going to get these screws along here, and that's going to allow us to kind of pull these boards through and then bring them up, and we should get access to the switches that way. Pro tip, push these buttons in before you try to get your board out, because, well, that's less travel for the shafts, and it'll come out much more easily. So there's this one. So what I've just shown is a pretty general procedure for taking apart a Pioneer receiver for getting to the all the controls and switches. They all have stuff that bolts it to the faceplate, and then they kind of move out and then up and out of the receiver. So now that we have this thing basically all taken apart and ready to get cleaned, I'm going to start using the DeoxIT products here. I actually reached out to Cake Laboratories because I ran out of DeoxIT D5, and I said, hey, I'm Fixit, I've got this channel, would you be interested in sharing some products with me that I can talk about on the channel? And they said, yeah, sure, and they sent me some products. They didn't send me D5, but they did send me some D100. I'm glad they did, because I told them about the channel, I told them what I do on here, and they sent me a few things that you'll see in some future videos that are relevant to this channel. So they also sent me some literature. I asked for some literature because they have a lot of products, and it's kind of confusing to understand which product goes with which application. So based on what I've just read here, my understanding is that for these switches right here, our best bet is going to be the D5, so we can get some flushing action in there, because the 5 means that it's 95% solvent, and once that evaporates, you're left with 100% DeoxIT product that stays in there and keeps stuff lubricated and clean. But with potentiometers, they recommend the D100. So that's what these papers say, and that's what I'm going to do. So let's get going here. Wear safety glasses when you're working with stuff like this, because it's gonna get you in the face, because it goes all over. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to start with these guys right here. This is basically the equivalent of a selector switch on a Marantz. Basically what I'll do is I'll just kind of start right here. I'll go right on top, and there are some there are some holes like in these switches, so the product can get inside, and it will. So now that we've applied a little bit, we can just kind of hang out and do this for a few minutes. Of course, we're not going to want to go too crazy to the point where we break something. The solvent, you know, it's around, and it will evaporate, but you know, just kind of wipe it down the best you can while you're doing this with a paper towel. Okay, moving on, we've got 5 independent push buttons here. Try to get this as flat as we can. We'll go kind of up here. Let's actuate some push buttons. And last but not least, we've got these guys here. Same thing. Give them a little squirt squirt. And actually, I'll just feature another product that DeoxIT sent me. They gave me the connector, cleaner, enhancer, and protector kit, which comes with some pure DeoxIT gold for gold-plated connectors, and some swabs and napkins and stuff. So what I'll do here is I will take the pure D100. I'll grab one of these handy swabs here. I think I already used this one once with the D100. We'll paint some D100 onto this little swab here. Okay, I'll just dip it in. There. And we're going to go into this jack, and we're just going to clean things up in there. We'll get this one while we're at it too. Okay, now that we've got these push buttons and things kind of figured out, we're going to put them back so we have a little bit more space, less stuff in our way. Okay, that's all back in place, but I won't worry about it yet. So let's look at this board right here. This board has a bunch of switches, one little potentiometer right here, and then this appears to be a sealed potentiometer. Since this appears to be sealed and it feels complicated, and I also didn't hear any static in the volume control, I'm just going to leave it alone. Not going to worry about this thing, and it feels good too, so I think I'll be just fine. Okay, so for the switches we're going to use D5 because we want to make sure we get some flushing action going on in there. Then for this guy we're going to use the D100 because it is definitely a potentiometer. For these guys, I see little holes in the switches here and here. We'll just give it a little spritz on each side and then exercise the switches to my heart's content. Let's break out the D100 for this potentiometer here. So we're going to look for a hole. Sometimes they're on the bottom, and yes, I see we have access holes on the bottom here. Just give it a little squirt. Alright, now it's time for this board. These have the 2 bass and the 2 treble controls. And then this is the tone switch for turning on and off whether you want these to be active or not. So this one's easy. We'll just hit it with the DeoxIT real quick right here. On the sides. And on the bottom also. Clicky. Okay, now these guys here, I can see on the inside as I play with them, there's a little metal wiper going around on a circuit board here and here. So think what's going to be best for these is, well, really what I should do is take these apart, but I really don't enjoy doing that. I've seen people do it on YouTube, but for me, I'm not that good at it, and it kind of leads to disaster in some situations. So I'm just going to put it like this, so the D5 is going down on the metal on the PCB, and just going to squirt inside of each one. And just for good measure, I guess I'll put some D100 in. Would you look at that, it's mostly back together. I'm just kind of going through and tightening these nuts at this point. And I don't know if you noticed when I was taking it apart, but none of these were tight at all, so really not going too tight on these. They don't have to be. Just going very lightly. Okay, I really don't like moving this thing more than I have to, so we're just going to have it right here. We're going to plug it into the dim bulb, the power is off. We will turn main power on for all of this. And you can see the bulb right there. We'll turn it on. What did I do? Okay, let's do it now. There we go. Okay. Bulb's nice and dim. Lamps are on. We'll wait for the protection relay to click in. There it is. So that means that things aren't too bad. Okay, we got it on aux. Still on the dim bulb. Let's see what we got here. Okay. Okay, this is really good, everyone, because before I got really nasty sound out of that speaker, and now I no longer get nasty sound out of that speaker because I cleaned the controls with DeoxIT. So this sounds really good. Quite happy with how this sounds right now. I think I'll just wrap this video up right here because all that's left to do really is put the faceplate back on. I will hand wash these controls with basically some dish soap and a wet cloth, and I'll do something similar with the faceplate to make sure that gets a nice cleaning, so it's going to look really nice when it's all finished up. So that's really all it takes, is just getting the receiver to a point where you can really access the switches and the potentiometers, and knowing which DeoxIT product to use based on what kind of switch or potentiometer or fader slider it is. Thanks again to K Laboratories for sending me some of the DeoxIT. Go visit their website if you want to check out their products and consider buying some DeoxIT yourself. And with that, I thank you so much for watching. And I haven't thanked my subscribers in a while, so thank you to all the subscribers for making this possible. And, coming back and watching these videos. Really appreciate you guys who keep coming back every time, and the input you give and all that good stuff. Thanks everyone, I'll see you in the next one. I've been listening to this with some music that would make it so I can't monetize on this video, and these things are really good. They're very, very good. I've never heard a Pioneer monster receiver before, and I am thoroughly impressed. I always thought that these were just, overrated, overpriced, don't need that much power, but like, it is taking these KLH-17s and just using every ounce of capability they have. It just sounds so good. So amazing. So maybe I'm changed. Maybe I want this. Maybe I'll have to offer the owner some money for it. But nah, I don't need it. Not with these prices these days.